Community-made content is something that I will always admire. In almost every game I play that I enjoy at least a little bit, I'll always try and find this kind of stuff, and one of the games I've sunk in the most time into is entirely built on custom content.
Yes! Yes! Oh my god!
I think stuff like this is a very positive addition to an existing game. Playing these, you just get a stronger connection to the community, and to an extent the original game. However, I think the best things to come from the introduction of these tools are the people who use the medium to convey a message, or at least making something that provides an entirely different experience. You know, something that doesn't just use the base game assets just in a different context, but something that pushes the game a little bit. And the Celeste community has this pretty much on lock. This is probably the most talented and passionate community I've ever been a part of, and it really shows with what they can create in this game. Some genuinely gorgeous uses of pixel art have come from some of these mods, especially Madeline in China and Anubi, just for examples. However, despite everything I've said, one of the maps that has stuck out to me the most over my time playing these mods is one of the simplest. It doesn't include any new mechanics, any dialogue, and a good majority of its assets come from the base game. That level is Holly's entry to the Spring 2010 collab, The Climb. Since I haven't really seen anyone talk about it besides a brief segment in this Patricia Taxon video that every single one of you should watch, I thought I'd make my own little bite-sized video about it because I like it, I think it's cool. Playing through The Climb, probably one of the first things you notice, and one of the most important factors to this level's gameplay, is the fact that neutral wall jumps are disabled. If you don't know what those are, they're a way you can scale walls without holding the climb button and losing stamina. All you need to do to perform it is tap jump and a direction key in this rhythm. Wowie. I don't really like neutral wall jumps that much. They never really feel satisfying to do, and it just completely eliminates having to actually worry about your stamina. And it just turns the game into baby brain gaming. And not only that, but they ruin the entire point of the ice walls, which this level uses a lot of. They go from something with an actual purpose to stop you from climbing, to just another basic wall, but you have to do something more specific to climb it. So any level that has these disabled is instantly better in any way, unless it is entirely built around it. And this level uses the ice walls and lack of neutrals in very creative ways that create a lot of interesting interactions that actually require a little bit of thought as to how you get by without wasting too much stamina. Each screen is like its own condensed puzzle that you have to figure out, which I guess you could say about literally every single room in every single level of the game, but it feels especially apparent here. The gameplay is unlike anything else in the game, at least from what I've seen. One of my favorite moments is this one screen near the beginning where you have to extended hyper under and around this thing, and it's really satisfying, which a lot of this level kinda is. Both executing everything and figuring it out. Another thing this level does that I really admire just in general is how stripped back the gameplay is. This is probably some of the most raw Celeste gameplay you're going to get from the collab. No gimmicks, nothing fancy, no nothing. And as someone who loves these kind of raw skill tests, you could say, big fan. Last thing I want to talk about is the difficulty. The little difficulty gauge is turned to max, so this is considered by the Spring 2020 collab team as one of the hardest maps the advanced lobby offers. And yeah, I agree, but I think it's kind of fun to compare it with the other Red Advanced maps. Real Skies requires the player to maneuver around moving dream blocks over long stretches of time and rewards good improv skills. Neum revolves around precise momentum-based tech, and Versus Sanctuary is just a lot of tech in quick succession through tight gaps. So a big theme with these is speed, and the Climb couldn't be any different. While the other three maps seem like culminations of the skills the player should have attained through playing the Climb is almost the opposite. It's methodical, calculated, technical, almost experimental. It often asks the player to stop and assess the screen in a bit more of a thoughtful manner because the solution to each screen is a lot more esoteric than other maps. That's not something the Climb had ever really asked you to do, which makes me believe that the Climb's difficulty comes a lot from the unfamiliarity of it, and I think that's pretty cool. My final verdict on the difficulty is that in the context of strictly the collab, and what the average mod player will have experienced at this point, the difficulty makes sense. However, the map is not hard. Alright, so almost every map in the collab has little to no story and is just a map with obstacles and hazards, but the Climb feels different. Every other map is, at the end of the day, a series of objects that were placed with the intention of being ran through by the player. The Climb doesn't feel like that. It feels much realer. Like this is a real area and it doesn't care if you're able to climb it. For being a Celeste modded map, it's oddly immersive, and it's made even more immersive with the background music that plays. It's this droning ambience that slowly adds in more pads and arpeggiated notes the higher you get. The song itself is called Severance, which means to cut off ties with something or someone. This coincides with what I think is the meaning of this map. The moody background and heavy ambience give off the feeling of returning to something that was once bustling and lively, but is now just a husk of its former self. In this case, a city-like area, but run down, in shambles, the sky a polluted red. There's nothing here, it's completely devoid of any dialogue, and the absence of gimmicks goes from an admirable gameplay choice to another contributor to this empty, harrowing atmosphere. This atmosphere, combined with the song and its name, makes it seem like Madeline is losing this place, somewhere that is probably very important to her. This place is obviously not in its best state, and the apparent destruction and abandonment of it has left it so inhospitable and dangerous. But Madeline stays and climbs it despite this. I feel like reaching the top is representative of moving on from something that, despite its years of decay and deterioration, still means something to you. The act of climbing it shows Madeline trying to relive her past memories, trying to grapple with her loss before ultimately realizing she needs to let go. There's this one moment that I really like around the halfway point where you walk out on this little ledge. From here, the mountains and sky are all visible, unobstructed, and Madeline just lets out an ellipses. A silent reflection on what she's lost, accompanied by a pensive facial expression, seemingly holding back tears. And this is literally the only time something of note happens narratively, and honestly, one is the perfect amount for a map like this. I love this map. It's such a unique and well-made experience that was made solely through the power of community spirit. All of it, the story, the atmosphere, the gameplay, and the music was all done for this small little community project that only a small subsection of people are even gonna play. No, scratch that. Every map in the collab was made through community spirit, and it's just all so endearing to me, and I really appreciate the work of everyone involved with it. The fact that these maps just use Celeste as a kind of host doesn't take away from them either. I kind of makes me like them more. I love how modding allows to see people make things work despite their limitations. It's so interesting, and at the same time, the limitations that make mods so impressive are what opens the door for other people who don't have the skill to make something from the ground up, who still want to make something. It lets people express their ideas so much easier given how inexpensive it is and the accessibility of it, and I think that's really cool, and why I love mods, and why I love playing them. Also, I'm broke and I can't afford, Last thing, I feel like I focused a lot on the extravagant works of art that come from modding, but I also really love and admire that opposite side of the coin. Kitty Castle is a simple 4-star ROM hack that I think is just really cute. It gives off the vibe of like a kid's painting that's hung on the fridge, and I mean that in a really positive way. Everything in this map is so fun and charming, and the ground texture makes neurons fire in my brain. And the existence of these pieces of modern art just make me really happy. These things that really aren't pushing the boundaries, and I'm not trying to discredit Kitty Castle, there was still obviously effort put into this, and the creator had rough understanding of a skill that I could probably never learn. And you know, I admire that. I find small stuff like this to be so charming and oddly intimate. Like, hacks like these are made purely out of love for the original game. They're made to satiate the desire to become involved with the community and provide more content for both yourself and the fanbase for no monetary gain. They're made to show off a small idea or skill, or they're just there because it's fun. I don't know. That's just how I like to look at community content, at least. And maybe I'm thinking about it too hard, but I don't really care. I love Kitty Castle, and it's I don't know much about the person behind Kitty Castle, but if they're somehow watching this video, I want to say that I love Kitty Castle. And you should love Kitty Castle too. And everyone watching this should love Kitty Castle too. So there's that. That's the end of my video about the climb, and also a little part about Kitty Castle and all this. I don't know. Never mind. Bye.